In this video, I will show you how to run a usage report in Zoom. A usage report is generally used to see who the participants of your meeting were and how long they attended for. So let's talk about specifics. In particular, we'll talk about running a usage report and then the ability to export that report as a CSV file, which you could then import into, let's say, an Excel spreadsheet. One warning before we get started. Uh, Unauthenticated users in a usage report will only show up by their chosen alias. So if they are not signed into a Zoom account, if your participants are not signed into a Zoom account, then the only way you will be able to identify them in the Zoom report is by whatever display name they chose. So if they didn't choose their real name, then you won't be able to identify them after the fact unless you can remember what name they chose. So let's get into it and I can demonstrate this. So I'm already signed into Zoom at zoom.us. I signed in using my Google credentials using the button that says sign in with Google. Make sure not to manually type in your Google credentials. And on the left sidebar, we click reports. And it gives us two options, usage reports and meeting reports. We're only going to do usage reports in this video. So you click usage reports, and then it gives you a date range. And you can change that date range to show all meetings that have happened within that date range and get the participation or usage report for that meeting. So in this case, I ran just a quick test meeting earlier, and so the default date range of just one day is showing the one meeting that I ran earlier. So we can see the different headers. It shows the topic, the name of the meeting, that is meeting ID, username, who was running the meeting, that's me, department, all things like that. And in particular, what we want to do is participants, it shows this blue 3 that's highlighted. We want to click on that, and that'll open up the actual report. And so we can see that there were 3 participants in this meeting, myself, and it shows, because I was authenticated, I was signed in, it shows my email address to identify me. But then it shows 2 other participants who don't have an email address associated with those accounts because they signed in or they joined as guests. And so the only thing it shows is their display name. Or in the case of this one individual who changed their name, it shows their original display name and then the display name they later changed it to. And we can see their join time, what time they left, and the total number of minutes or the duration that they were in that meeting. So this does show one of the pitfalls of allowing guests to join your meeting. Unless you know who these individuals were, in this case it was just me signing in as a guest, but if your students weren't using authenticated accounts, you would not be able to, from this report, differentiate who those students were. So that's one thing to keep in mind when you're deciding when you're scheduling your meetings, whether to require authenticated accounts, which would then display their email addresses. But anyways, here's our report. And so if we want to export this, we would just click the export button, and that would download a CSV file, and it would go to your downloads folder, and it would have these same headers, the same information, and then you could then import that into an Excel file or use this to determine participation in your course. Okay, thank you very much.